So ACF Pro brings with it 6 additional field types. We're going to take a look at 5 of those in this video, mainly because, well, the ACF blocks, I don't really use them, and I don't want to try and teach you something I don't really know myself. So we're going to ignore that one for this example. There's tons of videos on YouTube if you want to check those out. And we're going to focus on the main ones that I think are probably the most useful. We're going to go from the simplest to the most comprehensive in this video. Let's kick this off with the gallery field, probably the simplest out of all of the options as part of ACF Pro, but one that is incredibly useful. So inside the dashboard of WordPress, let's go into ACF and we're going to create a new field group. We'll add new and we'll give this a name. Gallery field test is perfectly fine. And all we're going to do is create one field type in here and associate this with the standard WordPress post type. Over at the browse fields, and inside there, you can see all of our fields are available. Let's hop over to the Pro section, and this allows us to very easily choose the Pro options. And from here, we can simply go and choose any of the fields that we want. For this one, we're going to choose the gallery. We'll give it a name, and we'll say select the field. So now we've inserted the field, we've got some options we can set up as standard. First of all, you can see we've got the return format, and there's 3 options here: your image array, URL, and ID. Now, depending upon the kind of tool that you're using to output the information may dictate what you need to use here. But let me just quickly go over the 3 of them. Your image array, it's an array of data. In other words, all of the actual files that you've uploaded as part of the image gallery will be output as one array, one long string of data. The image URL will output the URLs of each of the images, and the image ID will just include the ID of each of the images. So the more images you add, the longer these strings of data will be. You don't need to worry too much about what's being output. If you're using things like page builders, like bricks and so on, just choose the relevant one. Next, you've got the library. How do you want to handle the upload? Do you want to upload this so everybody can see the files you uploaded? So if you have just you on the website, that probably makes a lot of sense. Or you can upload it to the post. In other words, any of the image files you upload inside the gallery will only be available to this specific post and won't show up in the normal media gallery. Can be useful, can also be a negative depending on how you set things up and how you have multiple users or single users as part of your site. Now, next up, you've got the obvious options like, is it a required field, the minimum and maximum selection, so the minimum amount of images you want to choose, the maximum, and so on. Pretty simple. And then if you want to, you can restrict the images being uploaded to the width, height, and file size for the minimum and the maximum. And you can also drop in file sizes that are allowed. So if you're uploading images to your gallery, you may want to limit this to something like PNGs and WebP files. Well, all you need to do is drop that inside here and separate them with a comma. Simple as that. And you can have as many as you want inside here. Drop in some instructions if you need to. Again, pretty simple and straightforward. We're used to those. Next up, you can handle how new images that are added to the gallery after it's created are handled. Do you want to add them to the end, or do you want to put them at the beginning? It's up to you. If you randomize things, it makes no difference either way. And then you can set the preview size, and this is what you'll see inside the dashboard of WordPress. So you can choose from any of the pre-built layout sizes that you have as part of WordPress and or any additional plugins you may have installed. And again, we've got the standard things like your wrapper, your width, your class, your ID, and so on. So if you want to target this to control it via CSS, these are standard as part of the normal ACF and ACF Pro. And if you want to use conditional logic, well, you can use that inside here as well. That's basically all there are to the settings. So let's close this down. Choose we want to associate this, so this is set to be post type is equal to posts, and that's perfectly fine. Hit save changes. We'll come over into our posts and add a new post in. And you can see now we've got the image gallery placed at the bottom, or wherever you've chosen to display these. All we need to do is click add to gallery, and then we can choose what images we want to add to the gallery. We can choose to upload files. I'll just grab a couple of files to test things out. And as you can see, because we set this to be WebP or PNG, we get errors because these are not supporting that file type. So let's close this down, hop back out into ACF, and let's simply edit that to include JPEGs. And while we're at it, let's add GIFs or GIFs, depending upon how you want to say it, into the list as well. We'll save, go back to add our new post. This time we'll add to gallery, and we'll do the same again. So we'll upload our files, we'll select a couple of files. There we go now. They have been uploaded and we can start to use them. Once that's finished uploading, we'll choose select, and you can see there's our 4 images. We can easily drag these around to reorder them, so it's a nice intuitive interface to work with. And we can go and add in additional images if we want to. So let's upload a couple more. And now depending upon what setting we chose, they'll either be at the beginning or the end of our gallery. There we go. You can see it's very, very simple. You've also got options on the right-hand side for bulk actions, and you can see we can sort by date uploaded, modify title, or reverse the current order. You can choose that and you can see it updates and everything works as you'd expect. So it's very simple to add in these galleries, and then you can output them using any kind of method you want, whether you're using something like bricks or you're using something like Elementor. It's all very, very simple to output them. But that's how easy it is to add the gallery in and some of the options you have available as part of working with a gallery. Now, before moving on, here's a quick message from today's video sponsor, Hostinger. Kickstart your WordPress journey with Hostinger's high-performance hosting solutions and 24/7 chat support. You can ensure your site shines bright with plans to suit every need. Plans include free SSL, free domain, a supercharged CDN, and automated backups. And right now, you can grab up to 85% off in their biggest ever Black Friday sale. Plus, you can experiment safely with their WordPress staging tools, backup with a click, and let their WordPress AI help you out where needed. All starting at just $1.99 per month. Now discover more via the link in the description below. With Hostinger, find the perfect plan for you today. Next up, we've got the clone field, which is a relatively overlooked function that doesn't really get covered or a lot of love when it comes to ACF tutorials. But what it does is very useful. It allows you to reference any other meta field and information from any other post type or meta field group inside another field group. Now that probably sounds a little bit confusing, so let me just demonstrate what I'm talking about. So coming back into our field groups in ACF, let's add a new field group in. Let's give it a name like we've done before. So let's add another field in. Let's just choose something like number. We'll set this to be price. We'll add one more in, and we'll just call this location in a text field. Doesn't really matter too much what we're doing. Okay, so we've now created two normal field types in the same way we used to with working with ACF. Let's add one more field type in. This time we're going to use the clone field. So let's search for that. And we'll choose clone from the list of options. We'll give it a name. And then you'll see we've got some different options to what you've previously seen. First of all, you've got fields. Now, you don't have to just select one field. You can select multiple. But we've only got one we're going to reference. But the process is exactly the same. We'll click on there and you can see that now drops down a list of all of the different fields we can reference. We can reference fields inside this particular meta field group, and we can reference ones from externally, from different field groups. So you can see we've got the gallery field test, which is the previous one we created, and also the clone field test, which is this particular meta field group. So let's choose the image gallery. Now you can see all fields from that gallery field test field group. So if we wanted to grab everything that's created, if we had multiple ones, we could pull all of them in, or we can pick and choose them one at a time. Now there's only one field here, so let's choose the image gallery. That's now chosen that, and that will insert that into this particular field group. You can see we can set the display then. So we seamless replaces this field with selected fields, or you can group things together. It's up to you how you want to do this. It's more of a visual thing than anything else. And then you can see you've got options for prefixing the field labels, the field names, and again, setting it as required. So if you want to prefix the field labels with the name of this field so you don't have any confusion, you could do that here. So you may have multiple different galleries, for example, in different meta field groups, where you can either prefix the labels and or prefix the field names. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to leave it as it is. And then we're going to close this down, and we're simply going to go and choose where we want this to be associated. So we don't want to put it as a post type again. That makes no sense. But what we're going to do is we're going to click to open this up. And I've already created a help and tutorials custom post type. So for this example, we'll choose that from the list. We'll save our changes. Then we'll open that custom post type up, and we'll see we now have those three new fields. Two standard fields we've added as normal, and also that one clone field pulled in from our gallery meta field group. Again, hope that makes sense. So coming to the help and tutorials section, if we open one of these up, doesn't matter which one, if we scroll down, you'll see now we've got the price and the location, which were the standard fields, and also the image gallery, which is the clone field that's been pulled in from a different meta field group. So you could use this to set up, if you wanted to, a kind of catch-all container that just puts all the different field types you want in, and then you could easily reference those by pulling them in using the clone field. Lots of different use cases on where and when and how you may want to use this. But it is often overlooked, and I think it is a very powerful function as part of ACF Pro. Next to the agenda are options pages. Now, options pages, I've kind of covered this a little bit in the past, but what they are is like a centralized location you can apply options, or basically settings, that you want to make available globally. Now, a tool like Bricks Builder gives you access to a lot of these options. But let's say, for example, you want to set something up like the company name, company address, maybe the company branding, and so on. And you don't want to have to kind of set that up and use it in multiple different locations. You can set an options page up and then dynamically reference those options options inside any template or page that you wanted using dynamic data inside a tool like Bricks. It's pretty powerful and gives you one centralized location. So let me show you how easy it is to set these up. Back into ACF, you'll see we've got an option inside here called Options Pages. Let's open it. And this just looks like any other standard meta field group and so on. And it kind of operates in the same or similar fashion. The only difference is this is an options page as opposed to just a field group or a custom post type. So let's add an options page. Let's call this company details. If you want to set a parent up, so if you want to have multi-level inside just, you may have different options pages for different things. So you may have one for your company details, one for company branding, kind of get the picture. We'll leave that as it is though with no parent. Now you've got advanced configuration if you want to use this. Same as you kind of do with custom post types and meta field groups and so on. We can, if we want to, leave it exactly like this and do nothing more. Click Save Changes and that will add this new options page in. But let's take a quick look at the advanced configuration and see what we have. So the advanced settings gives you 3 different options. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. You can do things like apply a custom menu icon, menu title, position, redirect to a child page if you want to, and add a description. I think they're all pretty self-explanatory. Same thing goes for the labels. If you want to, you can customize the labels. Obviously a lot less inside you than you'd have with a custom post type, but you have the options. And then finally the permissions. You can choose what kinds of permissions you want to have access to. So you can see edit post is the default, but you can open this up and add in additional ones should you want to. We'll leave this as it is though. Then you have your data storage and you can set this inside the options database table, or you can have custom storage. If you choose custom storage, you can choose where and how you want to store this information. A little bit more detailed than we need to worry about. And for most use cases, I would say just stick with the options because this is going to put it in the most obvious place. And you can, if you want to, auto load options. This will automatically pull things into your options pages. And again, if you find that you are finding things so slow, you can set this to automatically load options in should you want to. And if we enable it, there's no settings for this. It's a case of it's either on or it's off. I'm going to leave that off for this example and hit Save Changes. So now if we take a look on the left-hand side, we've got company details. Now if we open up company details, nothing is inside there because this is basically like a custom post type. We need to associate things with it. Now, we don't have things like your title, your content, your featured image, and so on. They don't have those because this is options and it's not a post type, as it were, per se. So all we need to do is create a custom field group. So let's do that. Create a custom field group. I'm going to name this. We'll call it company details, and we'll just pop in some basic info. There we go. We've just popped in some basic info. Company name, address, those kinds of things. So all we need to do now is change this from show this field group in post type to post. I'm going to set this to be an options page. Choose the option from the list and scroll right the way to the bottom, and options page is the final option. All you need to do then is choose to associate this with the right options page. If you have more than one, by default you can see company options page is selected. Now choose Save Changes, and now we go into our company details. You can see we can now pre-fill out this information, name, address, and so on. Once you've finished, click Update. And now we have access to that options pages information. Now, this is a really simple example. You can put so many other field types into this information. But even just as a basic kind of thing like this, any way you want to reference the same information, like I say, things like your address, which is great. You might want to put it in the header, your contact page, your footer. You might have multiple different locations. Makes sense to have this set up as an options page where you can reference that dynamic data super easily. And that's all there is to creating options pages. It's very, very simple. Then just reference and output the data. Now let's take a look at the repeater field. Now the repeater field is an incredibly powerful field. Let me show you just a really simple example of how you can see this in action. So I've got a website that basically shows job roles. So if we scroll down, we go past all the normal information and we've got working hours. So the working hours is a good example. You can see we've got 3 pieces of information, but we've got it repeated with different data across different days. So you've got the location, you've got the day of the week, and you've got the hours that someone would work. Now this is set up as a repeater field. Each of these entries, for example, the London, the Bristol, the Cardiff, and the Edinburgh, is an individual entry. It's a repeat region. In other words, it's a duplicate with different content. Again, let me just show you how this works from the ACF point of view, but you can see hopefully this demonstrates a really simple example. Again, we're going to create a new field group, and from here we're going to browse our fields, pop over to Pro, and we're going to choose the repeater option. And we'll just call this sample repeater. We'll select it, and that's created the field for us. Now, if we take a quick look at this, you can see the beginning of this looks pretty much the same. We've got the label and the name, but then we've got this subfield section. And what the subfields mean is that these are the entities that make up the repeater region. For example, look at our previous version. We've got the location, we've got the day of the week, we've got the hours. So let's use that as a good example. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a new field in. Text is perfectly fine. I'm going to call this location. We'll add another field in. This is going to be the day of the week. And finally, we're going to add one more in, and this is going to be, again, a text field, and we're going to set this to be the hours worked. Okay, so we've now created 3 subfields that sit inside our repeater region. So we can have this same information repeated multiple times. Next up, we've got the layout, and this gives you 3 different options. Now, these are just visual on how this information is going to be displayed inside the dashboard itself. So you've got table, block, and row. I would experiment with these and see which one works best with the kind of data you've got. But table in this example is what I'm going to choose. And other than changing the visual aspect, they don't really do anything else. Pagination. Now, if you know you're going to have tons and tons and tons of repeater entries, then you may want to put pagination in so it doesn't slow down the load time of the dashboard itself or the page you're currently editing. So for this example, we're not going to worry, but put pagination on if you know you're going to have a large number of rows. Again, you can set this to be required, minimum number of rows, maximum, instructions, and so on. And then we've got some additional options. So for example, do you want this to be collapsed? And you can see we can select what we want to collapse, the location, day of the week, and so on. We'll leave them as they are. It's perfectly fine. It's a pretty simple layout. But more complex layouts, you can tweak and refine these to make sure that it isn't overpowering and you've got tons of stuff being loaded in. You want to add button label in? You can do that. So we'll just say add hours, and again, you've got the option for your conditional logic and wrappers and so on. But for this example, we're going to leave it as it is, and we're going to just set this to be post type is perfectly fine. We'll leave that and set the post, and we'll say save changes. Now coming into one of our posts, you can see we've got what we had before, the image gallery. We also have this repeater. You can see we've got add hours, location, day of the week, and hours worked. Each of those subfields are listed here. Click add hours, and this will open up the entries for those subfields. Depending upon what kind of field type you chose, will depend upon what you see inside here. But let's just add some data in. You can see we've now added some basic info. But because we don't know how many entries we may require, someone may only work 3 days a week. By using the repeater region, they only need to fill out what they need to fill out. So for example, we put the second day in, so we'll say add hours, and we'll say this time they actually work in London. This is on a Wednesday. And we'll say they work the same hours. And finally, we'll add one more day in, back in Cardiff, this time on a Friday, and they work a little longer. So you can see by the simple repeater region, we can add as many pieces of information that we need in, and we give more control over everything. So we click update, and that basically has now added that data in, and we've got 3 entries. If you want to delete one of these, you can simply hover over the row on the right-hand side, and you can see you can add a row, or you can remove a row. So if you added one in by mistake, for example, the Friday one, we click delete, confirm we're happy to remove it, and it's now gone, and we can just update this. Pretty simple and self-explanatory. So that's how easy it is to start working with repeater regions. Now, I will link in the description below to some videos that I've got that will show you how to output repeater regions using popular tools like Elementor and Bricks and so on. So if you want to see how you can take this and actually output the data, I've got you covered on videos there as well. Now, the final one we're going to look at is the flexible content field. Now, the flexible content field, in my opinion, is probably one of the best pro features you have. And I use this in a lot of different ways, but one of the simplest ways to consider it is, imagine like you've got your normal blocks inside something like Gutenberg, or predefined template blocks inside something like Bricks or Elementor, and you want to insert those in whatever order you want, and maybe change some of the data that's included in it. This gives you a very simple way of doing exactly that. So if you wanted to create a really simple kind of set of tools that you wanted your end user to be able to build their pages up from, this is a way you could do it by simply creating templates around the information that's included in every one of these content fields. Sounds complicated? It's not that complicated. And again, I've got a dedicated video that'll show you how you can use Bricks Builder to create something very similar to what I'm just talking about. It's very simple and powerful. So again, let me just show you how to create this. Let's add a new field group. We'll call it Flexible Content Test, and we're going to come down to Browse Our Fields, hop into Pro, and we're going to choose the Flexible Content, and we'll just give it a name. We'll call this Work Experience. We'll select the field type, and you can see that's pre-filled things out for us. Now, if we take a look, you can see we've got this layout. Now, this works in a similar fashion to the way that we saw subfields work in repeater regions, but it also works a little differently. So the first thing we need to do is give this a name. So we're going to call this Job Role, for example. And the same for the name, you can see that pre-fills it out. Layout, we can choose between a table, a block, or a row. So very similar to what we saw when we were creating things using repeater region. We'll leave this set as a block for now, and you can set your minimum and maximum widths on there. And then you see we've got our fields, which is very similar to those subfields inside the repeater region. So we're going to add a couple of fields in. So we're going to give this a title of job role name. All the same options are here that you'd have at creating this kind of normal field. So we're going to leave everything as it is there. We'll add another field in. This time we're going to set this to be a WYSIWYG editor so they can have a little bit of control over formatting. I'm going to call this job role details or description. Again, everything pre-fills out. You can customize and tweak this if you want to. Set a toolbar to basic, for example. We don't want media upload. We'll leave that as it is. And finally do something like the salary. It doesn't really matter too much. Okay, and we'll just set a prepend and put a £sign in there. So now we've created one flexible content type. Let's just minimize this. And let's add another one in. So we'll add another layout, and this time we're going to put in something completely different. So this time, let's just say we want to put this as portfolio, so they can create a job role, and then if they want to, they can add a portfolio of images of the work that they've created to go alongside it. Again, you can see the pre-fills things out. Block is perfectly fine if you want to use that, but it's up to you how you want to do it. We're going to keep this one super simple. I'm going to add two fields in. Add a field type. Name is text field is perfectly fine. I'm going to call this portfolio name. I'm going to add one more field in. I'm going to add one of our pro field options, which is the gallery. We'll choose that from there. Call it portfolio images. Upload to post. And what we're going to do is just come down, check everything is fine. Again, we'll do the same thing. So we'll say this is limited to JPEG, WebP, and PNG images. Okay, let's close that field down. And now we've created two different kind of layouts. One is a gallery, one is a kind of work experience or job role. Let's save the changes on this a second. And again, you can see this is associated with the posts, which in this example is perfectly fine. Let's come over into our posts. Let's open an existing post app. And now if we scroll down, you can see we've got this flexible content test. Let's choose add row, and there inside that add row are the two different kinds of layouts that we just created, our job role layout and our portfolio layout. Let's first of all choose job role. Once you do that, that now pulls in exactly what we chose, which is the role name, description, and the salary. Let's say we want to add another row in. We'll choose that, and we'll choose portfolio. And you can see that now pulls in our portfolio. But what if we've got more than one portfolio? It's fine. Just come to add row again, choose another portfolio. Now we have two portfolios. And let's just say we add another job inside here. We'll add another row and add another job role in. So imagine this like creating a CV or a resume if you're in America. You can see how easy it is to use these fields together to be able to create something really flexible, that you just create these kind of templates, these kind of groups together, and then let people choose whatever they want. Want to reorder them? Want to delete them? Easy. You can do all of that directly inside here. So you can see a job role, two portfolios, and a job role. Let's say we don't want this portfolio. Well, let's go and let's just delete it. Remove it. Job done. Want to reorder things to have all your job roles together? Simple. Drag it up to where you want. Job done. Again. And again, just hit update. And now we can create way more comprehensive and flexible tools and options using these pro features as part of advanced custom fields. Now, again, like I said earlier on, if you want to see how to actually output this using a range of different tools, I'll put some links to videos in the description down below. And if you want me to cover anything in more detail, let me know in the comment section. But hopefully this has demonstrated how those pro features actually work and how you can get started using them. And hopefully what you've seen is they're not that complex. Anyway, all applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.